I have to give credit to Kayla Says for sort of like making me think about this. She did a video about the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle jeans ad. I can't remember if it was either that video or the Sabrina Carpenter video, but maybe it was both. But she was sort of talking about how we sort of have these very attractive white celebrities who are really leaning into the male gaze now. We've also got other trends like the tradwives and all that stuff. And so she sort of pushed back on the claim that, oh, now things are starting to be traditional, right? Because the same types of people who would claim that, oh, like tradition is great or whatever, or like trad wives and whatever, the trad wife influencers are typically the breadwinners of their household, for example. That's not very traditional. A lot of people who are supporting the the whole like move towards traditionalism are not on board with banning gay marriage. That's not traditional. I think that what she has sort of stumbled upon is the fact that and I don't know if she connected these dots, but what it sort of brought to mind, what I realized and noticed when she was talking about this, is that there is not a move towards traditionalism, right? Because like, where are all the people running around saying, oh, we should be, putting in place like adultery and fornication laws, except for like maybe like half a dozen Heritage Foundation things, right? Other than that, like, not a lot of people running around calling for actual traditional laws to be put in place. What we're seeing now, I think, is not a move towards traditionalism, but it's a new movement that I would like to dub new traditionalism, which is not going back and saying, oh, how were things back in like the 60s or whatever, let's make things be more like that, but rather looking at the progressive aspects of American culture today and saying, what about this do I not like and would I like to roll back? So there are aspects of modern American culture that's a result of progressivism, and people are not necessarily on board with banning or overturning. For example, I think that gay marriage is a perfect example. Most people don't want to get rid of gay marriage, right? Most people are in favor of it. There's a lot of people sort of have the leave people alone type perspective when it comes to that. Just like let the gay people be gay and don't mess with them, right? A true traditionalist would say like bring in sodomy laws, like just to be blunt. That's what a true traditionalist would do. So no, there's no movement towards traditionalism. There's just a move to be like, oh, we need to get rid of this thing or that thing that's like that's modern that we don't like. So like, for example, like Pride Month, it's kind of annoying. It's kind of obnoxious. So a lot of people are like, you know what, I don't like that. Let's not celebrate that as much. We're sort of seeing cultural move away from celebrating Pride Month, at least so profusely as we have before. I think that we've probably seen a record low number of corporate rainbow capitalism logos because of how sick people are of Pride Month being so profusely celebrated in like mainstream spheres. Like, I'm not talking about in LGBT circles. In an LGBT circle, it completely makes sense to celebrate Pride Month. But if you are not in an LGBT circle, it's like, I don't really know. Like, I don't really know why I care so much about Pride Month. Especially from a secular perspective, a lot of people just find it annoying. So yeah, I don't think that we're moving towards traditionalism. It's towards like a new traditionalism. And I will say that as a believer, I think a lot of Christians sort of will have a knee-jerk response or reaction to supporting new traditionalism because it's like, oh, we're taking things back to the roots when this is a Christian country. A woman couldn't vote and stuff like that. Where it's like, no, first of all, the Bible doesn't say women shouldn't be able to vote, first of all. But second of all, many of the things that are being retained from the previous progressive movement, when progressivism was winning culturally, it's losing now. Like wokeness is losing now, but when it was winning, people are retaining some of like the positive aspects of woke culture or progressive culture or whatever, because they enjoy the benefits of that and they enjoy them, even if there's sinful aspects. I think one of them is promiscuity, right? Kind of a really big hallmark aspect of the feminist movement, right, is promoting promiscuity and saying that it's something that women should be leaning into. You're kind of weird if you're a virgin or whatever, and you're like 21, 22, 23, whatever. Like, that sort of attitude is not something that I think Christians should be celebrating, right? Also, like, with this whole thing of like kind of leaning into that more, it's like the whole like City Sweeney thing, where it's like, oh, she is like sexualizing herself for these ads, whether it be like for the Dr. Squash soap or whether it be for American Eagle, right? People celebrating her sexualizing herself just because she's a fit, attractive woman. Christians should not be celebrating that either, right? So Christians can be tricked into supporting a sinful culture just because like there are like a few good things about that culture, but you have to examine what it is that you're actually supporting and endorsing, right? So I think Christians should not be big fans of new traditionalism at all. Now, this doesn't mean that they should be Christian nationalists. I've seen some people, nationalists. They kind of forgot that Christ, the guy who the whole thing is named after, did say, my kingdom is not of this world. And then he say, like, if I was a king coming to conquer the earth, would not my throne not be yours, or something like that. Jesus is building his theocracy. It's under construction, right? Now, to build a kingdom or country on earth, then go do that, I would say. There's a template for that. God speaking to Moses, saying that I'll make a nation out of you, or whatever. God speaking audibly to say, hey, make a theocracy. I think that is a biblical template for that. But I think if God's not speaking to you and telling you, hey, go make the country, to make a Christian nation, even like the Israelites, what God told them to do when like they wanted a king or whatever, so they ended up with Saul, who was like wild and bipolar or whatever. But God was like, yo, don't do this just because you want to be like the other nations. It's going to turn out badly, when you're making this nation. Do it my way. People were like, no. And I was like, okay, I'll give you a bipolar king then. Here's what you wanted. So they got Saul, and then if you're familiar with scripture, you kind of know how that happened. Saul was like a believer, but like he had fits of rage. He kept on trying to kill David, who was like basically their best soldier. He was like a military leader. He had been anointed by God to be like the future king. I think it might have been the reason why Saul was upset, but it was very essential and effective on the battlefield for Israel. Obviously, you shouldn't be going around trying to kill and murder, your future king and your like primary military leader. But because people were begging God and be like, oh, we need a king, we need a king, we need a king, we need a king. Then God was like, okay, I'll give you a king. It's not good. It's not going to be for your good. It's not going to be for your benefit. But this is what you want. And then God gave them something that was imperfect and not the greatest. And I think that's if people are trying to make a Christian nation, they have Christian nationalism on earth, that's what you'll end up with. You'll end up with a nation that, sure, may have some good aspects, but ultimately, may oppress the people, may mistreat people, and is not going to correctly reflect how God would actually want things to be run down here on earth from like a government perspective.